I'm Marietta Fraser. I'm an environmental activist artist, and I live there, but my studio is here. Come on inside. These paintings are oils that I did as artist in resident at Beidler. It's an Audubon swamp, and the trees are tupelo and cypress, and they're the oldest in the world, and they're right here up the road. This is my front yard. And I paint more of my front yard than anything else, and it's oil on canvas. And then sometimes I do these little bitty pieces just to be happy. Here is my front yard with Spanish moss blowing. Scientists and artists are so much alike because they're always asking questions and experimenting. I had never painted moss, Spanish moss, and I wanted it to blow in the wind. And then there is one that you can see of my front yard on James Island Creek. We're paddling, oops, on James Island Creek. Yes, we're paddling on James Island Creek. But this is my next big painting. Isn't that giant? And we're going to have a movie about how I do that. This is a batik on silk, the last one that I did of James Island Creek, that I did for my granddaddy's 1946 Air Coupe plane. My brother flies it and I take pictures, and that's how I make my art. The one over here is the Ashepoo, and the Ashepoo is part of the Ace Basin. The Ace Basin is the Ashepoo, Combahee, and Edisto rivers, which combine to create the largest protected undeveloped estuaries on the Atlantic coast. I have flown the entire east coast of America and photographed, but that is my backyard, and it is the most beautiful place I've ever seen in my life. Up here, I have all my batiks on silk for 3 different shows. One show is about outer space, one is barrier islands, one is global climate change. And this is when Florence came right up the East Coast, Hurricane Florence. You may wonder, what is a batik? Batik is an ancient method of dyeing cloth using wax to keep the colors separate. I make the biggest batiks in the world. Here are the sails of a ship for the National Maritime Museum of the Gulf of Mexico, 21 feet tall and 30 feet wide, about the size of a classroom. This is the Amazon River, commissioned by NASA in 1995. I was their Artist of the Year. Charleston Airborne flooded batik on silk was made into a 100-foot banner to help people in Charleston talk about sea level rise. It says, "We argue, nature acts." My art is based on aerial and satellite photographs and maps. Flying in Granddaddy's airplane with my big brother as the pilot, with the wind in my face and the land below. looks so tiny is just an amazing, amazing thing to do. Here's a photograph flying over Edisto Island. Batiks on silk are the medium featured in 2 of my books with Orrin H. Pilkey. A celebration of the world's barrier islands was published in 2003. Orrin is a Duke University geoscientist. He's over 80 years old and looks a lot like Santa Claus. We're best friends, and we met in 1993 before I had an exhibition at the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum. I wanted his science featured to help explain about beaches on our coast and to protect them because they're always moving. So whenever I was working with Orrin Pilkey, these pins are all the barrier islands that he wanted me to illustrate. See? So it's kind of all over the world, but mostly on that East Coast. This is where I actually flew and took pictures. Here's a photograph flying over Edisto Island, which has become the Batik Eddingsville Beach. It's one of 37 batiks featured in my second book with scientist Orrin Pilkey, Global Climate Change, a Primer, in 2011. Iceberg shows the amount of ice hidden below the surface. The Great Barrier Reef in Australia was from a snorkeling adventure and is underwater photography, about 17 photographs put together in 2007. Morris Island Lighthouse is off the coast of Folly Beach. Every part of making art is enjoyable, from the camera shot to the final silk. Earthscaping Batik is a square. The last darkest dye was applied to the mountains and the blue sky. Everything else on the silk was covered with wax. Earthrise Batik is as if you were on the moon looking at Earth. The Apollo 11 spacecraft took this image in 1969. I was 17 years old then, same age as my granddaughter, Eliza, is now. Mapping the Planets in Silk and Sound is an exhibition that I made about our solar system and the planets in it. That was with planetary scientist Ted Maxwell and composer Mark Mercury. Our galaxy is a batik made from 3 different telescopes. Sea of Serenity is where we first landed on the moon. Art and Science, Envisioning Ocean Depths is another exhibition with Cindy Van Dover. She's a deep sea biologist and took me on the research vessel Atlantis off the coast of Barbados to make art about deep sea volcanoes. On the ship, I painted watercolors. These microscopic larvae look like creatures. Don't they look like fun? And they saw those through their microscopes on the ship. Locally, I paint oils of James Island Creek, where I live and swim, Charleston Waterkeepers, Coastal Conservation League, and the South Carolina Environmental Law Project are groups that help protect us from pollution and bad development. They're the good guys fighting for Mother Earth. When I'm 70 years old, I hope to meet you at the Waterfront Gallery downtown Charleston to see the battles that we've won and those we still need to fight as environmental activists. The show is called Creek by Creek. You can help your parents and friends fight for our home's health. Go team! Hello, people out there. I'm on Deweese Island and I'm getting ready to paint. Holy moly. Can the low country just give you gifts over and over and over again? Being a painter is a blessing. I'll tell you that. It's just a blessing. So this is my front yard. It's James Island Creek, also known as Ellis Creek. And isn't it beautiful? It's a big old high tide right now. I'll take you down to the dock. Come on. Well, young people, this is my dock. And that is not just a place to sit. It's an easel. I paint great big paintings there. And I saved this tree limb to be part of my life forever. And this is my favorite place in the whole world. It's James Island Creek. Isn't it beautiful? Don't you love it? You're going to be the people that help save our whole planet. I'm working on it. You're working on it. It's go team go. You're going to be the planet keepers, okay? Hello, boys and girls. In my studio, I have great big tubes of paint. See how big they are? And look how it has just all the colors of the rainbow. And you just squish them out. It's so much fun. It's just like playing with colored butter. Let me show you something. Whoa, they're heavy. Okay, these are transparent. That means you can see through these. And then these are semi-transparent. And that means you can almost see through them, but you can't quite. And then down here, I have these really, really neat ones that are opaque. And these are called my radiants. Some of these are like, they're like silver and gold. Isn't that exciting? I mean, you can do anything. Let me show you, these are the tools that I paint with right here. These are called palette knives. And you just smush it like that and you blend them all together. And sometimes I use a great big palette knife. And then sometimes I use things that aren't even really meant to be artist tools. But this is like something that you can smear paint. Sometimes I use this. And sometimes I'll use a sponge. And sometimes I use a hairbrush. And sometimes I use a nail brush. Sometimes I use a little cleaning thing. And sometimes, this is my favorite one, it makes dots. Look, it's a rolling thing. So artists can do anything. When I started painting, I could pull my hair out because there was so much to learn. But it's not that bad. Look, this is a solvent. It's called Galkid Light. And a solvent is something you mix with paint to make it move around. This is my favorite right now. It's called Neon Clip. I'm probably saying that wrong. But this is another one. This is the one I take whenever I go out and I'm painting in the wild. This is wax. And I want to show you my brushes because you have all these different ones and they're all different. Like, see, that's kind of hard and it's real flat. This one's soft and flat. So you pick out the brushes to do the job you need. And then you have these really pretty ones like this. These are made out of boars' tails and boars' hair. Woo-hoo-hoo! And then you have this kind that gives you an angle. And then you've got, just look at how many brushes I have. Look at them. Look at how soft that one is. Ah, it's so sweet. So these are my tools for batik, and I'm going to show you that later. And right over there are all my tools for making all the oil paints. So I think we're just going to be enough of me, and we're going to show you some art, and I'll tell you what they are. Hurricane Season is a batik on silk, 60 inches by 36 inches. Hurricane Hugo struck us in 1989. A lot of devastation. Shem Creek Park is an oil on linen, 32 inches by 84 inches. This creek is very polluted and now we have to clean it up. I hope that happens soon. Charleston Runner has a detail of the batik 15 inches by 60 inches and is in the Gibbs Museum of Art. Looks like a tree, doesn't it? Awakening 48 inches by 48 inches is an oil of an aerial view of the Ace Basin. It was my first oil from above. Charleston Airborne Flooded, 222 inches by 35 inches, shows a coastline with a 3-foot rise in sea level. It is made into a 100-foot banner. Blowing Moss, 9 inches by 12 inches, is a small plein air painting. That just means to paint outside, and it's a lot of fun. Energetic is a 4-inch by 6-inch, little tiny painting, and it was the first time that I ever used a palette knife. And it was whenever I found out that I could paint and made me really happy. Sea Islands of Georgia is 40 inches by 144 inches. This batik shows the barrier islands on the coastline, and the waterways really do look like trees if a pelican was flying over it. Virginia's Edge, 26 by 26 inches, shows the Chesapeake Bay. This batik shows the barrier islands on the right-hand side. True Luck is 20 inches by 34 inches. This batik is of a hummock. That's just a little tiny island on the way to Folly Beach.